Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, Connected Life peeps. See,
Hello.
now when I say that, it's on video. And I look handsome saying it.
You do look handsome.
Mhm.
I don't know
I'll
about
take it.
saying that, but you do look handsome. I was thinking that today. I was also thinking how nice it is that your face is less Rudolph-y than it's been in the last 2 weeks. I don't know what happened. You got like a zit that made your entire nose red.
Well, it was really poor timing. It was right before I went on the Wim Hof adventure.
And then were you
expedition.
also cold with your red nose?
Yeah, somebody was like, "You must be really cold." I was like, "No, it's a really bad zit. Thanks for pointing it out." But it was very cold, and it would have made it a little bit red.
Yeah.
So
Your nose
I
would have been
powered through the
pinkish.
saunas while I was there to kind of like get rid of it.
Try to get rid of the zit.
Yeah.
Mm.
hmm
Okay, this is like a big trip that
Yeah.
you did. You've been looking forward to it for forever, and it is adventure.
Yeah, it is.
And you love a good
I
adventure.
just got back this week. By the time people listen to this, it'll have been a few weeks, but I just got back from the Wim Hof expedition in Poland.
Yep.
Don't ask me where in Poland.
Nope.
I couldn't speak a lick of that language.
But you went, and you went with a couple people, and I think you should tell us all about what it was like for you.
Yeah, I think that it's a fascinating story. There was a lot that happened for me, and there's a lot that I witnessed. The things that I saw.
That sounds like a sex cult. It's not juicy like that. It's juicy in other ways.
I do want to start off, speaking of cult. Okay. I will not be surprised if 5 to 10 years from now, there's a documentary series on Wim Hof.
Being a cult leader?
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. People are pretty jazzed about him. And he's...
people are pretty jazzed about him.
He's a wild guy. He's got some wild thoughts. Not bad thoughts.
He's got wild.
He's kind of like this. I don't know if it's both. He's become very comfortable with himself, and also he's getting older. So he's just kind of like this loose cannon who's kind of saying a lot of stuff. And you're like, I don't know where you're going with this, but this shit sounds crazy.
That's funny.
He's very delightful, though, human being. For those who don't know who Wim Hof is, so Wim Hof has been like the kind of like the father of bringing popularity to cold plunging
And breathing.
and breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And those things have been around forever. But for whatever reason, his story, he has a magnificent story of his own personal journey with his wife committing suicide.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she committed suicide and it left him with 3 or 4 kids.
Oof.
And it just shattered him, right? And
of course.
his only way to process through it, he found himself getting into a river one day, and it took so much focused attention for him to be present within that.
While he was so cold.
Yeah, that it started taking him out of
The trauma.
the trauma that he was
He's like,
experiencing.
for these few minutes, I don't feel the pain.
Yeah. And what that began to do, it from what I could interpret from his story, is that for him, that began a lot of deep spiritual work in his life. And his breath work, it also evolved into him learning, like getting connected into his mind and utilizing the power of the mind to begin to change a lot about him, even the way that his body functioned in ways that doctors would say, that's not possible for a human to do that.
Right.
And he set world records for swimming under the ice for how much time he's been without breath and underwater. And
also they've done some studies with like his stuff of killing diseases.
yeah,
Like,
so they've injected him with certain diseases that should immediately be within the blood and be there causing problems. And yet his body didn't get sick and it was able to, I don't know if the word's metabolize it, but destroy it out of his body. And those are scientifically proven. And people are like, all right, is this a weird anomaly? And he sits there and says, no, any of us can do it. There's a power of the mind and the power of faith, and we can actually shift our bodies, and we're not actually tapping into the fullness of what we have capacity for.
Yeah.
So, with that said, that's a fascinating story that causes people to want to engage the process. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, within the last 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, I found myself cold plunging because a friend of ours got a cold plunge. And I found that for me being in that space, it also took a lot of
willpower, focus, attention.
Yes. And what it did is it caused me to have to learn how to regulate my body. Like, can I get my nervous system to settle down in conditions that feel really wildly out of control?
Right.
And that began to transform aspects of the way that I've showed up in life.
Oh, yeah. I think ice baths are one of the things I think transformed our marriage so much, which I think is wild. I would have never thought that. And it's not for everybody. And like some people, it stresses their body out. Like I think women, they have to be careful with how often they ice bath because it can stress their hormones out. But also it's the mind over matter is amazing, that ability. But for you started noticing. So when you get in the water, you're flooded.
Yeah.
When you ice bath, you're flooded with the panic of this is too cold, and your body feels like I'm going to die. This is too cold. I can't make it. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. It does what a good panic response should be. A panic response, our self-protectors are like, we need to protect you. So that's instantaneously you need to mobilize out of this.
Yeah.
And what happens is when you're like, no, I'm safe. I can stay here. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get hypothermia. I am going to be okay. You can bring your body back down, and then you can actually get to the point where your body relaxes, your heart it's pounding so fast at the beginning, and you can get it to where it slows down a little bit. But that sensation of your body going into a fight or flight reaction and then coming back down, you started using in our conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, as a side note, there's different aspects of stress. Like there is healthy stress for the body. And the way that we get into a place of healthy stress is being able to come into agreement that this is actually beneficial
and safe.
So there'll be people that will go into, say, a cold plunge and they get unhealthily stressed out. Like there's a lot of stress in saunas.
Totally.
But people are convinced that heat is a relaxing good thing for you. So they'll actually regulate through a hot experience and tell themselves that it's fine, but they'll approach cold with the idea that this is a bad experience for me. And so I'm just making a side note that actually our stress response, this helps in stressful situations when you realize like you can actually manage yourself and be like, hey, this stress isn't going to destroy me. It's not just the cold plunge, but the cold plunge is something that bleeds over into the idea that I can have a conversation internally while I'm in conflict with, say, you or someone else and say like, hey, this actually isn't the end of the world. I'm safe in the midst of this stress. This is good for me. I'm going to work through stuff inside of this. This connection is going to be better off on the other side of it. And you can begin to normalize what wasn't normal stress responses before. And I think that for a lot of people that have gone through really stressful relational stuff, every conflict or confrontation to them, it's built into their system. Anything about this is bad.
Right.
And so that's something that started getting eliminated out of me, was this idea that this exchange is bad for me.
And this exchange is a threat. And this exchange I need to run away from, or I need to shut down, or I need to go into fight or flight. Yeah. You started when your body would get flooded with the panic of, oh no, we're going to get into a conflict. You now could tell your body, actually, we can calm back down. Actually, this isn't dangerous. Actually, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. And that ability to tell your body that it's safe and bring it back down. Because when you're operating out of you being safe and I'm operating out of me being safe, we can talk through really hard things.
Yeah, totally.
When you are feeling flooded, like there's a threat, then you start reacting out of that threat self-protection. And then I often will respond back. I mean, that's typically the dance. We mirror our partners. So when you're in survival mode, then I will go into survival mode, and our most primal states typically hurt each other.
Yeah. And one of the things that for me, especially when I have heightened anxiety inside of something, I go into freeze.
Yeah.
And part of your attachment style freaks out.
Totally.
At freeze.
That's what I'm saying. Our survival responses never elicit safety for the other person.
Yeah. And so that's something that I have progressively been able to get into my body, get out of freeze, because I can get my even my heart regulated, like my physical heart.
Yeah, you can talk your way through.
And I can be like, I'm safe right now. I can slow my heart rate down. This isn't going to be disaster for me.
It's the same talk you have with your body in the cold water that you have with us in conflict, which is, this feels scary, but you're okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. This isn't going to kill you.
Yeah. So anyways, that is something that I did a lot of, right? And I've done a lot of breath work.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because when I started cold plunging and breath work, I was having similar experiences in both situations, which was in pieces of pain
would come up.
So I'd find myself in a cold plunge, and all of a sudden I'd be crying inside of it. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. What is this that's happening here? And then I'd be doing breath work, and around a third round or fourth round of breath work, I'm like, and pain's coming out inside of it. And I found that like there was an access to certain emotions that I don't know that I was able to get to until I was in those situations with it. So it definitely, the fascination with it has grown. And it was really cool because you were like, hey, there's a Wim Hof expedition.
Yeah, I wanted you to have an adventure because you've been saying how much you've wanted an adventure recently. And so I heard about the Wim Hof expeditions, and I was like, this would be so cool.
Yeah. So to kind of get into the story of the Wim Hof expeditions, we got in the first day, and one of the first things that they said was, just so you're aware, this is the Wim Hof expedition, not the Wim Hof retreat. And I was like, what do they mean by that? I'm confused. And they're like, yeah, the retreat is a few days where you get to rest and relax. And I was like, wait, what did I sign up for?
Well, my favorite thing is they didn't give a lot of information.
No.
They gave like how many days and that lodging and food would be covered. And that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't. And one of the things that they said on the website is Wim loves his whimsy. So there's not going to be any schedules out there. And we're just going to go with the flow and see what happens. Which, of course, they had plans. But really, one of the invitations that they have inside of that is letting go of control.
Yes.
And being able to be present in the moment. Because that's a consistent conversation. Be in this moment.
Let the body do what the body does.
Let the body do what the body is capable of doing.
Oh, yeah. So in case you're wondering why we're talking weird, it's actually just because in his breathing meditation, he says, be in this moment.
Be in this moment.
Yes.
But that was something that as a collective group that I had a high value for, is that I was jumping into a deep end of the pool with a bunch of people who were wanting to foster being in the very present moment that we were in. So, but let me back up. When I first landed, because this plays a role in it, we got in, I was like 24 hours of travel. I mean, I was just like,
you were wrecked,
completely wrecked and broken. And we show up at this coffee shop in the airport where we're supposed to check in with the Wim Hof team. And there's this woman in her like maybe late 40s, early 50s. I think she's just late 40s. I don't know. But she would like, eyes were full of like life and love. And then she starts talking and I don't know a damn thing she's saying because she's Italian. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. And
but you're cute.
Yeah. You're so sweet. I can see love in your eyes. And we were in this dance, me and my friend Tyler, who went along with me, with her, trying to figure out what is going on here. And she's like, keeps repeating herself in ways that I'm like, no, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, this is not changing the situation.
No matter how many times you say it, I still don't know.
But there's this moment where she puts her hand on my shoulder, and I felt this sense of acceptance and love. And I was like, oh, there is such a deep sense of nurture in this human being. And the essence of who she is transcends communication barriers.
Yeah.
Which is so powerful. I mean, that's so real about us as humans. We don't need words to communicate love. The presence of who we are in a moment can be more than enough to really bring safety. And it's funny because she's like, can't find my name. And we're battling through the language barrier, and she's handing me her phone, and I'm looking through it. Finally, I'm able to identify where I'm at on it. And she's like, oh, Justin, you're my group.
Cute.
And initially, I was like, oh, no.
Oh, yeah. You had your heart drop because you get stressed when you can't understand people.
High stress because
you get a lot of anxiety when you
have such a high value for healthy or good communication.
I know.
Being able to understand someone and then articulate myself to someone.
Yeah.
And if I can't do that,
you feel out of control.
Totally out of control. It's not even just, it's especially this need to like, I want to say so much, but I can't. What do I do with this? Yeah. I keep trying to cycle with words and I'm like, how else do I explain this? But I guess just powerless and out of control, I feel. And obviously there's some weird childhood trigger there. But, one of the thoughts I had immediately was there is something intelligently designed about her participating in my story this week. Maybe historically I would have been like, I'm going to try and control this situation. I'm going to find out if I can find another group where there is someone
that speaks English
that
a
can
little
fully
bit more.
speak English, and I'm going to have no problems. And I was like, no.
I'm going to surrender.
I'm going to surrender to this because
And trust.
Yeah. And that's been something that I have had a high value for in my life is learning how to surrender to circumstances.
Yes,
and
100%.
Inside of that are beautiful.
You've grown so much in that.
Right?
Oh, my word.
And there's so many beautiful gifts that are waiting to be extracted out of that adventurous spirit. And so anyways, plays a role later on in the story. But fast forward, we're there on the first day, we're throwing into breathwork intensive that's, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And then we're thrown into some cold plunging, which was totally okay. It was fun. But what I noticed right away was we were set up in groups of 25. There's 400 there, people. And right away there was not just we're going to do icebreakers, but it was like our culture of like, what's your intention for the week? What's something that you feel scared of?
Right.
What,
like vulnerability.
Vulnerability. There's initiation of vulnerability. And I'm watching as we have a room full of people that are from all over the world.
Yeah.
And
with all kinds of backgrounds.
There's only about two things that really unite us. Whim.
Yeah.
And the
adventure.
The English language.
Oh, a lot of people spoke English?
Everybody spoke some level of English. It was like the universal language.
Okay.
That was spoken at the conference.
Okay.
Right. Or the expedition. And so I'm like, all right, well, we can, even if it's broken English, we're getting along with this.
Something to meet at.
And most of the people came alone. And they're all just like, I'm wanting to get something out of this. So you're watching a group of people be yielded in this beautifully out of control circumstance. And some of them who had never cold plunged or done breath work before.
Whoa.
And we're
that
just
is
like,
the deep end.
I'm just going to do this thing.
Wow.
I heard about it.
Wow.
Sounds wild. I've never done it. I feel scared. And there was this excitement with the idea that there's this camaraderie of everyone's facing fears on different levels.
Totally.
Maybe it's a physical thing, but maybe it's the relational aspect of now I'm going to have to relate with these people that I'm going to be with for the entire week.
Totally.
And so that was also fascinating because what that eventually evolved into. But that first day we did our cold plunging, we did our breath work, and then we did another like hour breath work with Wim where he talked in this enormous room. And no one knew what the hell he was saying because the acoustics were terrible.
That's funny.
But we're all like, yeah, we're in.
That's funny.
Let's roll with this. So that evolved. And at the end of the day, now they had us going
nonstop
from like 6:45
in the morning
till like 8:30 at night.
Yep.
And I was like, I just got into Hell Week at some frat, some fraternity. I just got thrown into Hell Week at a fraternity.
Yeah.
And so they say at the end of the day, they're like, well, guys, we have kind of like good, bad news for you. And they're like, so we're going to do our hike tomorrow. But I didn't know what the hike was. Uh-huh. So I'm like, why is this good, bad news? It's being thrown at me. I was quite aware that there was some form of a hike where we were in basically our underwear and boots.
Right.
And apparently, usually this is done at the end of the week.
Oh.
But now that there's 400 people, they got
to cycle it through.
They got to march 100 people up a day.
Oh my gosh.
Up this. And they're like, up this mountain. I'm like, where is this mountain? Because there was clouds.
Yeah, so you couldn't see anything.
I couldn't see nothing.
Yeah.
And the next day we get out there and the clouds are clearing and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Huge mountain.
And the funny part of it was that I'm like, we're going out. We got our shorts on. We're all shirtless. I mean, the women had, bras on, whatever, bikinis. Sport bras or whatever. But we're going out and I'm like, okay, where's the bus that's going to get us up to the base of the mountain?
Nope.
Nope.
You're walking up to the base and then you're climbing the mountain. Uh-huh.
But when you look up at it, I mean, there is a ski lift.
Right.
And the whole thing is snow covered all the way up. And they're like, that little dot up there, that's where we're going.
So you're hiking through the snow to the top of a mountain in shorts.
Mm-hmm. They paired us up 2x2. And I felt like we were in this line as we're going up the trail. And I feel like we're being marched to our death. But as you start out lower, one of the things that they said is like, you're not allowed to talk.
Oh, the whole hike.
Yeah. They were like, please try your best to refrain from talking. I mean, there was niblets here and there of dialogue. But
niblets.
What they didn't tell us was this was a 7-mile round trip. Mm-hmm. And so we're just charging up the side of the mountain there. And we got partnered with buddies. And I happened to get partnered with this buddy named Lars. Uh-huh. And Lars is a German man, I would say, in his 50s.
Yeah.
And I think that it was probably the German culture. There's aspects of very stern, direct ways of communication. Yeah. And I was like, all right, my buddy's interesting. Let's see how this goes with me and Lars, because I'm more heart connected. And I don't know if he is or not. Sure. It's just kind of like, why are we doing this? We must do this at this time. He's very, very direct, which I can appreciate. And so we're going up the mountain and he makes a statement to our leader, Max. So it just so happens the woman that I talked to, Margarita, she wasn't the only one. She was like the administrative assistant and helper to Maximilian, Max, who was also foreign, but he could definitely speak good English. Yeah. And so we're going up the mountain and Lars has this moment where he's like, Max is talking to a guy in front of us. He goes, I thought you told us we were allowed to talk on this trip. I was like, that is
He's like a rule follower.
Yeah. And I was like, that was very direct. Like, what is the rest of my week going to be?
Wait, was he your buddy for the whole week?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's your buddy all week long.
Yep.
Very interesting.
So I'm like, I don't know if are we going to have a good connection here? Totally. Is this going to go okay? Is he going to get very assertive in my face about something that I do?
Totally.
Do I need to just follow all the rules here when I'm around him? But we're slow marching up. It seems very slow at the beginning, but it ends up paying off the pace because, after 3.5 miles,
100%.
We're going up, but there was something beautiful as everyone is being silent, just marching. yes, saying yes to the moment in front of them. And as we keep getting up closer and closer to the top, as the snow is like all around us, you're realizing that, you're not going to die in it. Your body has heated itself up.
Right. So you've acclimated.
Yes. All the people that are up there.
Yeah.
Who are looking at us like we're insane. And they're bundled up. They have hats on. They're like, what is happening? We're taking pictures of these people. They're confused at the situation.
Of course.
But it was like, oh, this isn't that bad of a deal. And once we got to the very top, there was this sense of like,
we did it.
We just did something really cool. We're running around in our shorts.
Yep.
We just conquered a mountain going up, and we had some time to eat. There was like this wonderful cafe up there. It was like a hometown bar.
Cute.
Where we got to have some food and march back down. And on the way back down, everyone was just delightful, just chatting
so
it up.
Happy.
Yeah, we did.
You're allowed to talk now.
We're allowed to talk now. We're powering back down. But I found myself at the end of that day, like my legs
exhausted.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
My legs were burning. My back was,
So it was like 24 hours on a plane and then hike a mountain.
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, have one day of intense breathing and stuff and then go hike a mountain.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the next day, this all kind of starts culminating into these days that happen. But the next day we do a bunch of breath work again. We go outside and we start doing rounds of cold plunging, right? So we end up hopping into the cold plunge for a couple of minutes. And what they have us do is something called get into the horse stance. So that's where you kind of like spread your legs really wide and then kind of like squat. So you're standing there squatting.
Well, you could, when we literally have a video, you could show us.
I could, but I'm not gonna.
Okay.
And then with our upper body, we're supposed to stand there. I'll show you this. And we got to do this. We got to go, hoo, ha, hoo, ha.
Oh.
Left to right, and we're twisting our upper body back and forth. And what we're doing inside of that is we're figuring out how we're getting our body warmed up, heated.
Yeah.
But my legs are already on fire from the day before, and they got me in a freaking horse stance for 10 to 15
so your
minutes.
muscles are locking up.
Already, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Then they throw us in the cold plunge, which I'm like, no big deal. I'm cool as a cucumber here.
I've done this for so
I'm
many times.
I'm peaceful, I'm chilling, whatever.
Yeah.
We do a round of like 2 minutes, pop out.
Yeah.
Then they're like, let's go another 10 to 15 minutes of horse stance work.
Oh my gosh. So your legs are like Jello.
And it's starting to hit up my back and stuff like that. And they're like, in the cold plunge again. So we're back in again. We come out that time and I'm going, I don't know how my body's feeling. 10 to 15 more minutes and then back in again. Then we get out after this third time and we're now I'm effing done with this situation. Screw you guys. I'm flying home. Now they're like horse stance again. And I'm in the middle of the horse stance.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, every muscle in my body is screaming at me.
Oh my gosh.
I am done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, you can't stop.
You didn't listen.
You got to keep going.
You didn't say, okay.
But I'm like sitting there logicking, like even the idea that like I need to warm up my body.
Right.
And I got to follow the rules. There was a little bit of both. I'm like, I'm not going to lie. Like everyone else is doing this. I need to go through this.
Right.
And all of a sudden I hear something inside of me and it's like, there's so much, it was this idea that was like, there's so much that happened to me as a kid that I didn't want to happen. That was painful. Physically painful that I didn't like and I didn't want happening.
Yes.
And now you're forcing me to do this and you won't listen to me.
Right.
And all of a sudden this rage comes up inside of me and I'm like, hoo, ha, hoo, ha. And I'm powering through this pain in my back and my legs as I'm like ventilating this intense emotion. Enough that later this girl, Elizabeth, who's next to me, she was like, I did notice. You got very loud all of a sudden.
That's funny.
It was very intense. And they're like, all right, 4th round, let's go. Whoever wants to do it. And I'm like, nah, hell no, I'm out.
Totally.
But at this point, like now my body's locking up and now my body's super cold and I'm spider webbing like blue on my arms.
Oh my gosh.
And there's this one,
oh my gosh.
There's this one guy who works for, he's an instructor, not of our group.
Mm-hmm.
And he catches eyes with me and he comes over and he's like, look into my eyes. And he's like, follow my eyes. Now follow me. Who, ha, who. And he's like, he's inches away from me.
Wow.
Keep doing it. Who, ha. And he's not, and as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. I am up in your business. I feel like I'm about ready to make out with you. But he's like, just keep following me. Just keep. And as he's doing it, I have this sense of care wash over me. Here's someone that's
You're
getting
being seen. He's partnering with you. Honestly, he's like regulating with your nervous system.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like,
He's in it with you.
And there's a sense of, I'm not going to abandon you. Right now, there's a need. And it's interesting because I wasn't aware of it until I came out of it on the other side. But while it was happening, I exited my body. So, I mean, it was like tunnel vision, right? And I don't know if I was stage 2 hypothermia kicking in plus
maybe
everything else, but it was like, all I could see was this person and I was not aware of the conditions all around me. And so he continued to be working me through that and then the group got out and they start working with the group. And then as they're working with the group, I couldn't even get with the group in the horse stances. I'm just like trying to keep myself going. And some other guy breaks down crying who was like in his 50s.
Aww.
And they all surround him and they hug him. Like everyone's just smashing him in the center of something.
Cute.
And this main instructor grabs me and him and is like, let's go. And I'm like, he feels concerned. I don't know if something's happening right now, but he has got me by the arm.
He's concerned about me.
Yeah, he's taking me off somewhere really quick.
Totally.
Am I effed and I don't know it? Like, so we get to our room where all of our group is to get,
meeting.
Meets at. And he immediately, I mean, he rips off my shorts. I had underwear on under it, but he's like, get these off.
Like get the cold off.
Yes. And he's throwing my hoodie on over me. And he was like, keep locking eyes with me. And he's just like doing the horse stance again. He's like, just follow me, do this, stay with me. And I think my anxiety's rising even more, feeling like this guy.
I'm watching him. He's telling me something's wrong with me.
My logic is going, this guy is a professional. He's
concerned about me.
And he's not leaving me.
Yes.
Something's going down.
Totally.
So we get inside of this room and he stays with me for a while. And then Margarita shows up and she gets across from me and she was like, look at me. And she was like, follow me. And now my muscles are seizing.
Oh my gosh. This is so scary.
And I can't even do the practice.
Oh my gosh.
Because
you
my
can't even
lower
move it.
back's like
locked up.
Yeah. So she starts mimicking all of these poses for stretching. And she's like, follow me, do this, follow me. And I'm walking this out. Now, this is an interesting thought. So earlier that day in the breath work, as I'm laying there, I have this thought. And I think, I need Margarita to hold me.
Oh, you're like, I need some nurture.
And it was fascinating because I was very aware of that. I'm like, oh, there's something inside of me that is deeply needing nurture. And she's representing this feminine care and nurture. And I was like, I'm not going to say, hey, Margarita, would you hold me? I mean, like,
totally.
Honestly, in my journey, I've come to the ability with friends.
You could have probably.
Well, especially with friends, I could be like, dude, I just hold me for a second. Something's happening in my soul. But I blow it off. And as I'm doing this work with her, my body is warming up. But as it's warming up, all of a sudden, these emotions well.
Oh, of course.
And she stayed so consistently present with me. It's like this mother that won't abandon her child in this moment.
They're like taking care of you.
Yes.
Like you are the center of attention and they just want to make sure you're okay.
And I have this very acute thought in the back of my head. I'm like, there's her. Max is now here with me and this other instructor. These are 3 key important people in the whole process who are staying fully present. Now, again, that could be cause for concern.
Sure. The 3 top dogs, they want to make sure I'm okay.
Yes. We don't need a lawsuit.
We don't need a death.
Yeah. But there was a moment where I thought, am I dying?
Oh.
Like legit.
Totally.
I thought I might be dying in this situation. And
wild.
But I was like, nah, I can't be dying. They're not going to let me die. That's too much legal trouble on their shoulders. But then all of a sudden I collapse on the ground and I go fetal and I start sob crying. And Margarita comes in and she just wraps her arms around me. She's the minute she does it, I just start just like wailing because I can feel the kid inside of me.
Yeah, who needed nurture
and is getting this just mother nurture that's so necessary for this moment. And adult me is okay. I could feel the transference of her love and energy to a little kid. And I fully at this point in my life am like vulnerability is like my superpower at this point. And me staying present with this,
yes,
I was like, I will not shut this down.
I'm going to let my soul get what it needs.
Yeah, this is a holy moment for my heart.
Yes.
And I'm going to allow it to have this.
So good.
And so as I'm allowing the space for that, the other instructor, he gets down and my whole hip is completely seizing. And I'm shoving my fist into it as I'm crying, being held, trying to get it out. And he goes, is it right here? Is it right here? He's like, I got this. And he pushed my hand away and he starts massaging out my leg as I'm laying fetal in my underwear and my hoodie on the ground. And it's interesting because Margarita, she had her hand on my upper back, one hand, and her other hand, like basically on my butt area. And I could feel as she's got her hands in these two positions, I can feel what feels like fire going up my spine. Like it was heating up. And I've had those encounters of those experiences when
in like church or with God.
Yes. When there's a strong presence of God that's doing something inside of my being. And to the point where it was so hot where I almost screamed, take your hands off me. Wow. My body's on fire. Like I can't handle it. It's way too hot. And this is going from freezing.
Totally.
Maybe this is just part of what you feel when you almost die. So as I'm sitting there, I kind of like become a mush puddle.
Like I was going to say caterpillar in the cocoon, but like you're just kind of like.
Yeah, I'm just rolled up in fetal position, all mushed out. And then there's this, all of a sudden as I'm laying there, my eyes are closed and I open my eyes and laying on the floor on his side is Lars.
Oh.
And his eyes.
The guy who's the rural guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And his eyes are locked with mine. Like not aggressively, but lovingly.
Oh.
And he's got this like smile on his face. It's like an affirming smile.
Oh.
It's, I love you, you matter, smile. And this is messing with me, right?
Oh my gosh.
It's messing with me for a few reasons. One, I didn't expect Lars. I'm like, I didn't see this coming.
You didn't see it coming.
No, I'm like, where's he doing?
What a tender, and especially I think that's so true because I think a lot of us have experienced men who were not sure if they're connected to themselves or their tenderness or if they'll judge us for vulnerability. And so to have someone who just gets down on your level with you and is accepting you, that feels so surprising sometimes.
Yeah. And I could feel this sense of like, here's masculinity that has entered into my encounter of vulnerability. And, you know, him being older, he's giving himself away to me in this moment.
Oh yeah.
You know, and his eyes aren't what's wrong with you. His eyes aren't just get over it. His eyes are, you are precious and you matter, Justin, in this moment. And every time I just start weeping more. And then I'll close my eyes and just like go into my inside experience. And I open them and there he is still there.
Cute.
And I cry some more. And it's just the cycle keeps happening over and over again, where I actually thought like, okay, I'm finally done with this
like
thing.
Now you're going to leave.
Well, not even that. Before he got there, I thought, okay, the session's wrapping up. Margarita has like kind of released me and she's like, left me kind of in this fetal position, but her hands are still on me. And then all of a sudden, surprise, you're not done.
Lars is here for more. Round 2.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a mom and a dad.
Yes.
Just taking care of your little kid.
And
probably such deep compassion into areas you'd never experienced it.
Yeah, and there was no dismissiveness inside of him at it. And as that's happening, my hand's like, there's like one hand that's just like laying out on the ground, extended. And he puts his hand on my hand, grabs my hand, and he just gently holds it and just keeps holding it. And I, again, there's this thought that like this guy, based on some of his outward expression I've seen, shouldn't have the capacity to do this.
Oh.
And what's fascinating is later on, I'm on a bus with him, and we're having a dialogue about his journey. And within the last month and a half or 2, he started reading a book on child repair work.
Oh my gosh.
Inner child repair work.
So he literally was primed. He was like, I know what this is.
And one of the things that I believe through the grapevine I heard that he said was that he didn't think that he had emotional capacity. He didn't have emotions. And someone was like, no, you have emotions. You have a great capacity for them. Look at how you so lovingly showed up with Justin. That was provoked from a place of having compassion. And
so it helped him see that side of him that he didn't even know existed.
That was there. And even in the dialogue that I was having with him on the bus, I was like, I had him close his eyes and connect inwardly with something at some point, and he was able to like hear a bunch of stuff internally. And I was like, you don't understand how amazing this is.
Yeah, you're connected.
Yeah, you're in your 50s and you're connected, and you just started doing this work, and you could see like there was something so beautiful about his child self, like receiving.
I mean, like I have this thing, I can do it.
And it was beautiful getting to do that. Anyways,
that's cute.
Back to the situation.
And that is so true. And I want everyone to hear that. We often are so scared to let people meet our needs, but often the gift of contributing is a gift to the people contributing. Yeah. Like it feels good when you get to be something that someone needs in that moment. Like it was good for him to get to love you, and it was good for you to get to be loved. And we're so scared about being needy that we just imagine people are so frustrated or that we're a burden instead of seeing that it's a gift both ways. Yeah.
And it was a thought that ran through my head is I was so deliberate. I've already talked about letting the child part of me experience the love that Margarita was expressing. And then I let that child part of me experience the masculinity and the fathering of that moment. And I kept weeping over and over again because I'm like, oh, I am actually being able to take this in.
Right. The little kid who didn't get compassion is able to actually let it matter.
Compassion and nurture.
Somebody was like, I'll just be here with you for longer. Yeah. I'll be here with you for longer. I'm not mad. I'm not in a rush. I'm not saying get over it. Like all of the things that you missed out on, you were getting to experience.
And I was very I had this awareness again of now we have 3 people. The one leader had to go because he was overseeing everything. But now I still had these 3 people who were fully engaged. And when I opened my eyes, there were other group members who had also come back to the room for their own stuff
and saw you
and saw me, and then they stayed present. And like one girl, like she was just like, I just felt like I was supposed to dance over you and dance with the heart of love towards you.
Aww.
And a couple of the other guys, like, okay, this French guy who had cried himself, like we're talking, this guy was like a pilot, and I mean, like he was a straight up dude, you know? And there was something about him where he was just engaging in love towards me as well. And I was watching, like, this room didn't leave, and they weren't just here for themselves. They stayed for me. And I could feel myself be like, it's okay if I take up all this time.
Wow. Which is huge.
Which historically
massive for you.
Was not a thing that I was comfortable with, allowing myself to, because there was such a message in my soul that was like, hey, I'm a burden if I have a need here. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting because that happened. I get through that. I'm like, I'm going to go crash for the rest of the night. There was like a number of events still left.
And you're like, done.
Late in the evening, I'm done, passed out. Next day rolls around.
Yep.
Now this day, we're going up to a waterfall. Mm-hmm. And we get to this waterfall, 100 people up there. We're all hoo-hawing it up. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Getting ready for our time, taking pictures with Wim. Wim's all wildly, like, looks like a mountain man, lost in some hippie outfit that was just beautifully him. And he's banging bongos and stuff.
Of course. Love it.
I was waiting for everyone to start popping ayahuasca. But we took this beautiful time to hang out on the rocks. Like, there were ancient rocks that had been up there for years. And we all went and sat on, like, the conversation was, hey, there's something beautiful about nature. Mm-hmm. And there's something beautiful about connecting to yourself and being present with nature, which I already have a value for.
Right.
And so we were just getting into a headspace of connecting to our heart and stuff like that. And then we are all going to go into this waterfall as a collective group. So back into our skivvies again, and we're marching in, holding each other's hand as we, like, single file into this thing. And there was a statement made by Max, and he was like, do you want to go at the end? Because the person at the end will be in for the shortest amount of time. He was caring for me.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I feel totally fine going into the waterfall. This isn't anything colder than anything I've been into. And my body feels fine today.
Yeah.
So we get in there, and it's taking longer.
To get everyone in.
Totally. But I'm feeling fine. And I'm telling myself, like, look, if this thing gets too bad, at any point, I'm breaking loose from this group. I'll get out. I'm going to leave them behind. And I don't feel anything that stands out as problematic.
Right.
It was definitely cold.
Yeah.
And it led into about 9 to 10 minutes of us being in there.
Water. Yeah.
They were trying to get us out earlier, but our whole group was like, yay, let's all hug and stand around in the cold. It was like, too much love being shared here in this moment. So we end up out. And we're back in horse stance, hoo-hawing it up. And suddenly Max says, who's the coldest? And we're just all trying to do our thing to warm up. He goes, I think Justin might be. Let's bring him to the center. Now, I don't know if Max saw another problem. Oh, shit. Not again. So I'm at the center of a human blob.
Yeah.
Smashed flesh all together.
Yeah.
And as everyone...
They just squeeze in. They're all like half naked bodies squeezing around you.
I'm in between some women's bosoms and some guys' bosoms all at the same time. Wow. And I start shaking a little bit. And it's interesting because there was a thought that passed through my head.
Now, to be fair, you shake most times when you get out of an ice bath. Like, that, it's a regular thing.
Totally. It's normal. I started hitting kind of a violent shake.
Yeah.
And
it didn't normal.
Yeah. But in this moment, I have this thought where I'm like, and now this isn't my adult logic self at all, because I feel fine with this, but this thought says, there must be something so broken about me that these people need to take care of me in this moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fascinating.
Because you've judged other people as the broken one.
No, not even that. No, the thing that was fascinating to me is, like, I've been on such a journey of allowing myself to be loved.
Yeah.
That there was a part of me Because I actually feel fine. Like when someone else needs it, I'm like, yeah. Let's rally. Totally. Let's get around them. Like, not a big deal. You're worthy of love. Like, I truly
believe that. Yeah.
But there was it was that record from my history that said you're a burden. And also I felt super vulnerable because I'm like,
because you'd already done it.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, I must be really broken that now here's a second day where something is in deep need inside of me.
Right.
And I come out of that.
Because you're allowed to have 1 day of needs.
Maybe one day a need.
Yeah. Like we all have that level. I'm allowed to be sick for this long. I'm allowed to need compassion for this long. Right. And then we feel like now it's up.
But now I'm the problem child in the group, maybe. It's like, can't roll with the rest of everything that's going on. And I've had people have that emotion with me.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm always like, no, I don't feel that at all.
This is great. This is incredible, you know? So as this exchange is happening, we come out of it and I go back into horse dancing it up and hoo-hawing around. And Margarita comes over and gets in front of me and she's like, keep your eyes on me. Keep your eyes on me.
This is a very healthy attachment cue. So when we're kids, when we are breastfeeding, often you're staring at your mom eye to eye. And then not all kids were breastfed, but the attachment that happens, you learn that eye to eye contact is how your nervous system.
I don't know why it's made me laugh. I'm like, I'm breastfeeding and staring eye to eye, staring down my mom.
Yeah. But that's just true about babies. And the eye to eye contact actually helps your nervous systems regulate together. And it actually releases endorphins in the mom, happy bonding chemicals, and releases endorphins in the kid. So eye to eye contact is something that all of our attachment systems need for healthy attachment, but it's hard.
Oh.
We often don't do eye to eye contact as adults.
Is this why dogs, when they poop, they'll look you in the eye? Is this an attachment issue?
Yeah, definitely. Stay with me. Eye to eye.
Stay with me. Eye to eye. Well, and as I'm doing it, I can tell that I'm leaving my body again. And I'm like, oh, shit, this same thing is happening again to me. Oh, no, I'm going to be a puddle on the ground or something. My body's going to give out. And I can feel the soreness and stuff. And she's like, she continues the breath work and she grabs my hand, puts it on her in the middle of her chest. And then she takes her hand, puts it on the middle of my chest. She's like, feel my heart, stay in this. And she's getting me to regulate and feel the beat back and forth. And then she's like, breathe in, out, in,
I'm just imagining how crazy you must have looked for them to have to do this. Like, oh my God, we're losing him. Let him feel my heartbeat. He needs and that is what she did is a very regulating. Yeah. She's co-regulating. She's like, get your body back out of panic. She's pulling your body out of panic to be with her. In her sense of peace. And she was amazing because she didn't lean into your panic and become panicked with you. She was a resource for you to regulate with her.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So I'm having that exchange with her. And then it's really cool because then Max goes, hey, come over here with me. So he pulls me away from her and he gets me face to face. And he's wearing some big woolly hippie coat and some hippie brimmed hat. I don't know how else to say it. He looks very hippie-ish in it. And he's like, now look at me. Keep eye contact with me. And he goes, what happened to you wasn't okay. Repeat after me. No. And we're in the instead of hoo-ha, it's no. And as I'm doing that, I'm starting to regulate my body. And he goes, no, stop. He throws his jacket on me, his big happy jacket and the big hippie hat. And he was like, now go, push into my hand. No. And I felt my voice go from a weakness into a strength. And there was this masculine power that was being exchanged with me. And he goes, you're not a little boy anymore. You're a man.
All right. So he's catching that you're in an emotional flashback.
Correct.
He's catching you're a little kid who's powerless and you're having trauma response in your body.
Correct.
And it's probably something in your body got triggered.
Right.
That it's powerless and out of control.
Right.
And we know that you had a history of abuse. And so we know that what happened is there's all of this panic in your body.
Yeah.
And so he is pulling you back into your adult self. You get to say no now. You get to have boundaries now. You get to feel powerful now. You're not a little boy getting beat. You get to say what happens.
Yeah. And there was a sense of, I suddenly re-enter into my body. Because he was, and as he's talking, he was like, you're warm. Your body's warm. I've touched it. It's warm.
Wow.
Your body's fine. It's warm.
So like your body was doing okay, but your mind was still stuck in panic.
Correct. Which it's interesting because I never at any point was connected to any sense of panic.
Yeah.
But it was happening.
Your body was just doing it. Yeah.
My body was doing it. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. What is going on again? And I hope this isn't like yesterday. And I suddenly, everything connects back in and I'm like, I'm much better. And they lead me over. Young kid, 19-year-old, takes his gloves off. Goes, here, let me help you put them on your hands.
Aww.
And then a lady pulls out these heat warmers that you crack. She's like, here, put these on in here.
Aww.
And then Margarita's like, sit down, sit down. And she puts my socks on for me. I'm like, I'm like actively not fighting, telling her like, I can do this. Like, I got this. And I'm like, let this happen.
Let them take care of you.
Let them care for me.
And how many, I mean, so many of us as kids were the caregivers instead of the kids.
Yeah.
And so you're getting this moment of reparenting where the community, the tribe, the village is taking care of all of your needs. Your regulation needs, your connection needs, your physical needs, like serving you needs. It's beautiful. And so many of us resist those moments because we feel unworthy instead of letting them in and letting them impact us.
And it requires an intense amount of vulnerability inside of it. You know, like I'm sitting there as she's putting my shoes on for me. And I'm resisting every part of me that wants to say, honestly, I got this. I can put my shoes on. And it's giving way. Yeah, it's giving way to being taken care of. Yeah, completely. So I end up getting everything back on, come back to my body. I start feeling my toes again. And we all hoo-ha it up a little bit more and then end up going back down the mountain. And I found that something that was very beautiful in this process is that as we got back, like they're about to engage more
of the
events schedule and breathing stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Like, I've done a lot.
Yep.
I don't need to prove anything.
I don't got to prove nothing. I'm going to go hang out in bed and crash again. And I crashed out. And there were multiple events that I missed out on.
After that.
Yeah.
Because you're listening to your body and being like, what can I handle? What do I want? What feels good to me?
And there was something beautiful about that, about being able to be like, I'm going to be okay. Even if they're not okay, even if they're like, well, why isn't Justin here? Justin is missing groups and stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of history of codependency where codependency would say, well, I'm going to disappoint these people.
Right.
There's an expectation of me to do this thing. And I was just like, no, I'm totally okay with letting this care land because what I'm obviously here for, I'm getting. And it's about me getting that. It was beautiful. The next day we kept doing these breathwork sessions that were an hour.
Long time
of hyperventilating. And I was able to give myself, in one of the sessions, I'm pretty sure I passed out multiple times. It came to
Justin. Oh my gosh. I'm never letting you go on one of these
how long
again.
I was gone, but I'm here. I'm okay.
You had like 10 angels that were just on this trip to keep you alive.
But we were in this one breathwork session where we were all laying on the ground with our heads towards the center. And we had our arms outstretched and we were holding hands with the person around us. So there was a circular thing as we were going through it. It was fascinating. Around I think round 5, I felt overwhelming vibrations in my hands, intense vibrations. And both the people on each side of me felt them too. That was the energy in the room. Because here you have a collective group of people that are from all different cultural backgrounds, faith backgrounds. One of the things that they had in common that I didn't talk about earlier was love. Like everyone there was like, no, but I believe in love. We're here for love. Like love is the reason that we're on the earth. And you could feel this tangible presence of God in the room that was so thick with all of our different faith backgrounds, but all of the common aim was this desire for love and care for one another in the encounter that was happening. And I found that like, it was so beautiful to be bonding with strangers that I may never see again. Yeah. You know, but to like
get an experience.
Yeah. And what I watched was so fascinating that within a week, you watch people like let down their walls, have their needs met, get cared for, give some of their most vulnerable stories. Like I talked to some people that are like, I've never shared this with anybody, you know? And that was happening not just with me because I was safe enough type thing, like, oh, Justin's always safe. People share. But I was watching that happen with
everyone.
With everyone doing that. And
I think there's just something when the intention is to be present.
Yeah.
And to connect, like just some beautiful sacred moments happen.
Yeah.
And it feels like this trip was filled with I think the way I'd characterize it is so many moments where you loved. I mean, we're running out of time, but we can't even tell all the stories. There were amazing moments where you got to love and pour into people and see them open up the way that you got to be loved.
Yeah.
But that's the most beautiful kind of love where you're getting to give and receive. You're getting to just be who you are and be present with where you're at.
Yeah.
I always think that this trip sounds like brutal to me.
Yeah.
Brutal and beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. Like I may have almost been on the verge of dying and maybe it wasn't the best thing for me. But it was also, like you said, beautiful.
Really healing.
Really healing.
And it's amazing that like when you have trauma, sometimes you're going to have trauma responses. And I didn't understand that before I had PTSD. Like sometimes your body makes a choice that your mind has no idea of.
Yeah.
And now I can look back and be like, oh, there was moments where I've been in a group of people where one person would have a trauma response. And I didn't understand what was happening back then. I was always loving, but now I can see just different things will bring up the reactions in our body that will bring up, and it does it when they do it. And so it was wonderful that there was people that could take such good care of you when that trauma came up.
And and I talked to Max. I was like, look, Max, I've done plenty of cold plunging.
And for a long time.
Yeah, for long periods of time. This shouldn't, and I haven't even needed to do like the old horse dance hoo-ha either. I've been fine with going through it. And I was like, what are your thoughts on this? He was like, I 100% guarantee you it was trauma response. You were having trauma responses both days.
He's like, you weren't the coldest person there. Yeah. There's people who were much, Yeah.
And I mean, that was
I'm glad that they had people that knew what to do.
Yeah. I think that felt reassuring, having someone that was like, no, I get it. And we saw what was going on inside of it.
And it's almost in that way more helpful for you that you didn't know what was happening and you didn't even know to be scared, because that's a lot of what it is as a kid.
Yeah.
We don't really know what's happening. We don't fully understand it. And what we need is people who feel bigger than us, who can lead us through an emotional process.
Yeah. Again, I do want to wrap this story up, right?
Wrap it up.
I want to wrap it up with, I performed the most amazing Irish goodbye probably in the history of Irish goodbyes. For those of you who do not know what an Irish goodbye is.
You love Irish goodbye.
I'm an Irish goodbyer.
You just jump out of a party. You jump out of a group. You don't say goodbye.
I don't say goodbye. I sneak away and people are like, wait, where'd Justin go?
Yeah, he's gone.
Delights my soul.
Delights your soul. Hard on my attachment system, but delights your soul.
Yeah. And so the last night we were there, I mean, I was so busted. I had a migraine. I was just laying in bed, like snoozing, getting ready for the trip back. And Tyler Lifesti, my buddy, comes back to me in the room. He's like, bro, do you realize that you just Irish goodbye 399 people. We were all gathered together to take a collective picture, and you were the only singular soul that wasn't there.
That's so sad. You won't be in the group photo.
No, there's nothing sad about it at all. That group photo says everything about me right there.
Okay, but the cutest thing I think ever is that you Irish goodbye to everyone, but Margarita, or is that her name, Marguerite? Margarita. Okay. She found you anyway.
She did. The next morning, like
after you'd Irish goodbye to everyone,
she texted the group thread like, "Oh no, what time is Justin leaving? Does anyone know?" And
Cute.
She's like, I'm scared I'm going to miss him. I'm going to get up at like 4:45 to try and find him. And I texted her like when I found it, because I woke up early and told her when I'd be down there. And she
went down to meet you.
Came down. She was there at 7:00 to meet me. And she just held me like for, I don't know, a minute or two.
I love that.
Held me. And she just kept giving me a kiss on the cheek. And she was like, "I'm proud of my American," and something like that. I can't remember what it was that she was saying. But it was just like, it was a mother's goodbye.
Totally.
And it was so precious.
And just think about how meaningful, like you'll remember this story forever. It's not that she has to love you forever, but her love,
it is
the legacy
moment
of her love will live on.
Yeah.
And for me, that idea cost me, because the idea of getting up early sounds horrible to me to say goodbye to somebody. But like, it's so giving. It was just so nurturing. It felt so much like the completion of the week for you to get that care.
Mm-hmm. So I walked away with, I think that for me as a man, there is a gift in getting to do something that feels like it pushes my limits.
I think there's something as humans, like there's something that rises up inside of us when we're challenged, and we rise to the challenge.
Yeah. And I think that I would love to do a trip like that once every maybe 5 years. I don't know if I want to do it once a year, but that felt so fulfilling in that. And then it felt fulfilling being able to experience the bonds. And then
got adventure needs and nurture needs.
Yeah. And that's not counting dozens of conversations with, I made a friendship with this guy named Igor, and he was just a delight. And there's so many of those moments of people that I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever see any of y'all ever again.
Yeah.
But it was such a pleasure.
It was magic.
Yeah.
Well, I had heard all the stories, and I still loved it. Every single minute of it. It's so cute and so beautiful, and I love it. And this is why I love, honestly, what we do with our lives is create environments like that.
Yeah.
Like we have so many experiences that we've created where people get to have that experience of being loved like they never have been before, or held or seen or nurtured. That's why we run the courses that we run online.
Yeah.
We create communities like that because, and I think that's why it held my attention, is listening to, I'm like, I know what it feels like to be in a sacred space like that of someone's heart.
Yeah.
And it is, those moments are probably some of my favorite when I'm alive, is that deep connection where you're getting like the authenticity of Margarita's best, like the best self she has was meeting your most authentic self. Like you guys got an authentic connection, not with self-protection, not with pretenses, not with pretending. And those moments when we get to experience the truth about someone's nature, the truth about their authentic being are so holy to me and so beautiful and so rare, because we all have so much self-protection and defenses and fears and all that stuff. But it's so beautiful. And I feel grateful that you got those experiences, and grateful that we've created a life where people are getting to have those experiences a lot.
Yeah. And I think the last I'll say is like, I could have missed out on all of that if I wasn't willing to stay present with the initial uncomfortable moment that said, this is a thing that is very difficult for me, language barriers. And I don't know how this, I could have,
jumped out of that group
being like, oh, I need to take care of this, rather than engaging trust. And I think that that's something that I would send people away with from this conversation. Your capacity to truly engage trust in moments that feel
that your needs will get met,
especially in moments that feel like scary, difficult, go against what you want, if you can truly yield to them, there are beautiful gifts that are waiting to open themselves up to you in your process. So
beautiful. All right. Well, share this. Subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube.
Find us on Instagram.
On Instagram.
Come comment on the clips and tell us what you liked or
comment.
Didn't like. Let's end this. This is a long one. We love you so much. We're so glad that you're with us. Thanks for being on the journey with us. Thanks for hearing all of our stories. And share some of yours with us.
Go away. Go now. Goodbye.
What if you Irish goodbye this podcast?
I'm going to Irish goodbye this podcast. No goodbye from me.
I think we all saw it, though. We all saw it. I saw it.